monstrosity off my property right now! You are breaking the law, not me!
You ever pull up to your own property, acres of quiet, untouched desert scrub you legally own, and see a brand new, custom-built structure standing there like it's posing for a magazine? Not a shack, not a shed, but a full-on, brick-columned community hall, complete with fresh stucco, nice recessed lighting, high-end tiling on the roof, and a sign painted in smug, tasteful gold lettering that reads, Golden Crest Community Hub. Members only. It looked expensive. It looked permanent. It looked like a personal insult stamped in concrete. They thought I'd stay quiet. They thought I'd panic and sell the problem away. They were wrong. Dead wrong. I brought a bulldozer. I never expected a phone call on a quiet Tuesday morning to drop a 20-acre problem straight into my lap. It was the estate attorney. My uncle Silas, bless his heart, left me his parcel outside Phoenix, clear title. He'd spent his last 2 years in and out of the VA hospital, fighting a silent battle with time and fatigue, and the place had sat quiet, unwatched, accumulating dust and memories. Land in Arizona isn't just dirt. It's an inheritance, a piece of quiet history, tied to the old ways of doing things, and suddenly, I was tied to his legacy. I grabbed my keys, the official county deed, and drove out that evening, but the sun dropped too fast into the mountains. I promised myself I'd return at dawn, ready to face whatever lay waiting, with legal proof in my hand. When dawn broke, I turned my old F-150 off the county road. The air was cool, carrying the sharp scent of creosote and damp earth. The northern stretch, the part bordering the sprawling Golden Crest development, looked wrong. It was unnaturally level, too uniform for raw, unforgiving desert. I stepped out, my work boots crunching on the dry soil. Peace didn't last 10 seconds. I saw deep, heavy ruts, the kind massive graders, dump trucks, and industrial paving equipment leave behind when they violate raw earth with malice. Seeing the earth torn up like that felt wrong, like a profound, unnecessary trespass against Silas's memory and the quiet dignity of the place. I followed the gnarled ruts, pushing through brittle mesquite and sun-bleached tumbleweeds until the trees opened up and the ground leveled into an artificial, manicured plaza of concrete and gravel. There, perfectly centered in the new clearing, stood the dam hall. Fresh stucco walls, a thick, pristine concrete slab that felt solid enough to land a helicopter on, robust brick columns supporting a stylish tiled roof, and right at the front, Golden Crest Community Hub. Members only. It wasn't just a structure. It was a defiant, arrogant statement of permanent ownership. The words hit me hard, twisting my stomach. My land, their building. That was the exact moment the cold calculation in my mind started overriding the shock. This was where the whole damn war started. Anger came slow, boiling up as I walked closer, boots crunching on decorative pea gravel they'd laid down to formalize their intrusion. They hadn't just trespassed, they'd built deliberately, confidently, investing thousands in time and high-end materials, like they truly believed I was never coming home and they could simply absorb the land. I pulled out my phone, opening the Maricopa County GIS system, the official mapping tool. The map loaded slowly, the little spinning icon mocking my rising impatience. Finally, the boundaries appeared. The hall sat deep inside my boundary, a minimum of 15 feet in, maybe 20. Absolutely, unmistakably mine. It wasn't a minor mistake or a simple surveying error that crossed the line by a foot. This was intentional encroachment. A cold, hard betrayal that comes when someone in power decides your legal rights don't matter as much as their convenience and neighborhood vanity project. I took a picture of the deed next to their smug gold sign. This was an expensive investment made entirely on the assumption I'd never come back to claim what was mine. I found the number for the Golden Crest HOA printed on the sign and dialed. "This is Vivian Thorne speaking," came the voice, cheerful, polished, the kind of voice that sounds professional but holds zero warmth. I explained the hall on my land, built without consent. Her pause was ice-cold, analytical, and calculating. Then she launched into the lie, delivered with practiced sweetness. "Oh, yes, the hub. Your uncle gave us verbal permission years ago. He was so supportive of the community. We've enjoyed that space for a long time." The concrete slab was barely cured, maybe 6 months old, and her lie was not just insulting. It was intended to demean me, making me feel like an outsider. Perhaps you weren't close enough to your uncle to know what he truly wanted for the community, she added, dripping honey and subtle condescension. My hand curled into a fist, blood rushing to my ears. That was the breaking point. This wasn't a mistake. This was a naked territory grab fueled by arrogance, and I was about to shut it down. I didn't sleep that night, replaying Vivian's sweet, calculated lies, especially the subtle dig at my relationship with Silas, which felt like an invasion of my private grief. By sunrise, I drove straight to Randall Brooks, the property lawyer, looking like a man ready for war. Randall's office smelled of ancient paper and stale coffee, a comforting scent of reliable, old-school justice. They built a damn community hall on my land, I told him, dropping the deed and GIS screenshots on his cluttered desk. He confirmed, "This is illegal as hell, a clear, blatant encroachment." He immediately drafted a cease and desist order, formal and intimidating, giving them 10 business days to remove the hall, or I could legally remove it as abandoned debris under Arizona statute. "Prepare yourself," he warned, leaning forward over the desk. HOA boards never go quietly. They view a threat to their authority as an existential crisis, and Vivian Thorne specifically, she's known for fighting dirty. Expect retaliation. He wasn't wrong. Before the certified letter even arrived, Vivian called me, completely bypassing Randall. "I heard you contacted an attorney. That seems unnecessary and, frankly, quite aggressive." She completely dismissed the cease and desist threat. "The hall is community property, paid for by the residents." I countered, maintaining my calm. "It's 15 feet inside my property line. It's an illegal structure, and it will be removed." She snapped back, her polished voice finally cracking slightly. "Property lines can shift. They aren't absolute, especially not old desert plats from the 90s. I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Not without filing, not without notice, and certainly not just because the HOA wants them to, Vivian. We're talking criminal fraud if you try to claim otherwise." She then promised documentation, which turned out to be an email attachment of an old, tattered postcard with a vague thank you note signed only with an S, clearly referring to a tidy-up, not a land donation. Randall's reply to the forwarded image was instantaneous and blunt. "This isn't consent. It's trash." Vivian wasn't mistaken. She was confident, relying entirely on bureaucratic confusion and my assumed inexperience to win. Walking the land again, I noticed new paths and deep, fresh tire impressions, suggesting they were organizing not to comply, but for the fight ahead. Then the voicemail arrived, a shaky whisper from an unknown number, the voice muffled as if speaking into a collar. "You think it's just a hall? Look closer at the county lines, man. They moved them. Ask about the Quiet Revisions project. Don't trust the audit trail." The message confirmed my deepest fear. Moving boundaries isn't bold. It's high-level criminality, requiring someone on the inside of the county GIS office. Vivian wasn't protecting a hall. She was protecting a systematic, calculated scheme of land theft. The organized harassment started immediately, precisely as Randall had predicted. The very next day, a white county environmental truck, marked with the Maricopa seal, showed up, claiming an unsecured open well. The well was clearly sealed and bolted down with heavy steel. The inspector simply took pictures of the securely sealed top and drove off. 2 days later, a zoning letter arrived, accusing me of storing garbage illegally. I drove out and found fresh trash bags, fast food debris, clearly planted right by the tree line to trigger the violation. Another letter soon followed, accusing me of illegal deforestation based on an anonymous sighting. This wasn't bad luck. This was coordinated, demoralizing choreography designed to bury me in fines, make me spend money on lawyers, and drain my will to fight. I took everything, the letters, the photos, the compliance demands, to Randall. "This is someone pulling strings," he confirmed, his voice low and grim. "They're building a narrative piece by piece, negligent landowner, public risk. If they get enough flags, they can justify condemnation or temporary administrative control to force a sale. It's a standard predatory tactic." The hall was just the visible front door to a much larger land grab they planned to build around me. That evening, the pressure intensified. I found a neon orange warning tag tied to the fence. This property may be subject to further review. Code compliance. It felt like a tightening noose. Then the manila envelope appeared on my gate. A USB drive and 5 words, scrawled shakily, like the writer was terrified. Watch this. Don't trust maps. Everything was about to change. I drove to an abandoned gas station lot, plugged the USB into my laptop, and locked the doors. The first file was a screen recording showing the county GIS system. A hidden layer labeled Quiet Revisions Draft, internal only, revealed my parcel boundaries shifting 10, 20, even 30 feet into my land, slowly devouring my inheritance digitally. A note confirmed, adjustment approved by J. Salinas. Forward to HOA liaison. The second file was a shaky cell phone video. The audio was horrifyingly clear, a man whispering to Vivian. You can't just keep pushing these edits, Vivian. If county auditing pulls logs. She cut him off with absolute venom. They won't. I'll say it was a clerical correction. The system needs to reflect what we own. She ordered, her voice hard. Move the boundary again. 2 more feet this time. He'll break once the fines hit. She was using the word break. The camera tilted, revealing Vivian standing over a jittery man in a cheap tie. You worry about your keyboard. I'll worry about Jamie. Jamie was the scapegoat, a low-level worker she was ready to burn to protect her status. The third file was a list of priority parcels for adjustment, including mine, highlighted, affected by recent death of owner, low likelihood of resistance. The calculation was cold and brutal. They had turned my recent grief into corporate leverage. Quiet Revisions wasn't sloppy bureaucracy. It was systematic theft, engineered and planned by the HOA. They thought I'd fold. Now I had proof, an undeniable, digital record. The war had officially begun. I showed Randall the files. Now we know how deep the rot goes. This is criminal, not just civil. But to physically remove the structure, he needed one final layer of defense, an independent, licensed survey. We hired Carl Dawson, a 30-year veteran with a reputation for absolute accuracy. Carl ran the total station, matched everything to the original plat, and confirmed, that hall ain't just on your land. It's deep on your land. 15 feet past your line. No question. He signed a sworn affidavit right there on his tailgate. I drove to meet Bull Nelson, the bulldozer operator, a man of few words and powerful machinery. I showed him the deed, the survey, and the cease and desist. He confirmed with Randall, who cited Arizona law. I was legally shielded to remove the abandoned structure after notice. Bull grinned, his toothpick shifting. Sounds like we got ourselves a green light. Just tell me when. The next morning, luxury cars lined the road outside the HOA clubhouse for an emergency meeting, preserving our hub, addressing the threat posed by adjacent landowner. I drove down and watched through the large glass window. Vivian was weaving a dramatic narrative using staged photos and tearful emotion, claiming the hall was safe according to her tampered GIS map. That was enough. I stepped out of my truck, calmly walked across the road, and taped 2 items to the massive glass window. Carl's official survey map showing the true, straight boundary, coordinates and all, and the cease and desist letter Vivian willfully ignored. Smack! Smack! Whispers erupted inside like a sudden flash fire. Vivian froze mid-sentence, her practiced confidence shattering in real time. I looked her dead in the eyes and walked back to my truck. I didn't need to shout. The undeniable truth was on the glass. I woke up before sunrise the next morning, feeling settled and ready, the calm before the storm. Bull's massive yellow dozer rumbled down the road, the diesel engine vibrating through the earth. I opened the gate. The sun crested the horizon, painting the scene in gold, as Bull positioned the machine. The HOA cavalry arrived, SUVs screeching to a halt inside my property line. Vivian jumped out first, designer heels sinking into the soft mud, screaming, "Stop! You can't touch community property. That is theft." Bull blasted the air horn, a deafening sound that sent HOA members stumbling back in fear. I walked toward Vivian, holding the folder like a verdict. "This," I said, holding up the survey report, "is my land. This is the truth, signed and sealed." "Lies," she shrieked, her face a mask of primal fury. She lunged and planted herself directly in front of the machine, hands spread wide. "You move that machine 1 more inch," she screamed, her voice hitting a desperate, high pitch, and I will have every lawyer in the state bury you and your contractor. Bull smiled, a professional, unbothered expression. Ma'am, I ain't moving this dozer, but I am getting it ready. He yanked the lever. Clang. The blade, 40 tons of steel, slammed into the ground with concussive force. The shockwave snapped her right heel clean off with a sickening crunch, and she collapsed, a gasp escaping her, into the mud like a puppet whose strings were cut. Someone laughed loudly. Sirens arrived. 2 sheriff deputies, hands on their belts. Vivian screamed, "Arrest them. They assaulted me." The deputy calmly looked at my evidence folder, reading the affidavit and the legal statute. Ma'am, this structure is fully on his land. You and your board are currently trespassing. Clear out in the next 60 seconds, or we'll escort you off. Bull revved the dozer again, a promise in the sound. The deputy turned to Bull. You're clear to proceed. Bull dropped the blade. Bricks exploded, beams splintered, and the smug stucco facade crumbled into dust. 15 minutes later, the hall was a pancake of crushed debris. Vivian finally snapped, lunging for me again, manic and primal. Deputy Flores stepped in and said clearly, Vivian Thorne, you're under arrest for disorderly conduct, attempted assault, and interfering with a lawful boundary enforcement. Click, click. Handcuffs locked around her wrists. Perfect, cold stainless steel. She thrashed and screamed at the deputy, the contractor, and me as she was led to the cruiser, mud-streaked, one shoe missing and utterly broken. The Queen of Golden Crest was gone. The courtroom 2 months later was anticlimactic. The HOA sued me for $410,000 in civil damages, demanding compensation for the loss of community asset. Randall was relentless. He presented the evidence, the deed, the survey, the cease and desist, and the cold, unedited USB video of the GIS tampering and Vivian's venomous voice ordering the theft. The judge didn't ask for deliberation. She declared, judgment in favor of the defendant. Full dismissal. The HOA will pay the defendant's legal fees, plus restoration costs, totaling $175,000. Furthermore, she referred the matter of falsified land documents to the district attorney for immediate criminal review. Vivian made a sound I will remember to my dying breath, a strangled, collapsing gasp, realizing her life was about to implode. Peace returned, but with a costly echo. I received an HOA newsletter, community update, mandatory fee adjustment for legal restitution fund. The HOA had to pay the 6-figure judgment, $175,000, covering my legal fees, damages, and restoration costs. They issued a massive, non-optional community assessment to cover it, hitting every single resident. The neighborhood quickly turned on Vivian. Nothing dissolves neighborly unity like a massive, unexpected fee. I called Bull for one last, personal job. We built a massive steel panel, heavy and industrial, carving the words deep with a plasma torch. When the concrete was set, I finally stepped back. The morning sun hit the metal just right, private property. No HOA use. Ever. And beneath it, sharp and clear, in memory of the $175,000 community hall. Neighbors drifted by. Lord have mercy. She's going to hate that, one said, shaking his head. The sign was on Reddit within hours, fueling the community outrage. I stayed behind at sunset. The land felt quiet and honest. I'd won the land, the money, and the justice. But I'd also created a permanent rift in that community, where half see me as a hero who stood up to tyranny, and the other half sees me as the villain who made them pay for my boundary. I wonder, if you were in that HOA, if you had to pay that $175,000 penalty for Vivian's crimes, would you see me as the good guy? Or just another greedy landowner who prioritized his boundary over their community budget? Let me know what you think in the comments. Where does personal justice end and community responsibility begin? Hit that like button if you think I did the right thing, and share your own HOA war stories below.